Hello. Thank you so much for meeting with me today. I know that you've been extremely busy with all of the meal preparation and organisation, so I appreciate you being able to take the time out of your schedule in order to meet with me today. So, as I'm sure you're aware, the annual Christmas Claus dinner is coming up, and so today I wanted to discuss with you as my assistant chef all of the ingredients and meals that we shall be preparing for that special day. So I currently have a list of a few ideas and recipes of different meals that we could create for the Claus family. However, I'm very happy to receive your input for your ideas regarding any other meals or recipes that we could come up with for the special day. Great. So before discussing the ideas today, were you able to get the number of people that shall be attending the Claus dinner this year? Okay. And is that everybody who responded? There are a few others who need to respond? Okay. So we shall cater the serving size around that then, I think. So the serving sizes that I will be suggesting today for each idea are just for the recipe at hand, so if we have to increase that, we shall do so accordingly, depending on the amount of people that shall be attending. Okay, so let us begin by discussing the main course, which shall be the traditional Christmas turkey. Now what I have suggested here is an 18-pound turkey, and that will serve approximately 20 people. Now, as you have mentioned that there will be at least a few more people than that, let's change that. Do you think we should get a larger turkey, or do you think that we should just cook 2 turkeys? Alright, I will make a note of that. Now for the preparation of the turkey, I would like to prepare it as I do so every year, and that will be a juice of a lemon, salt, and pepper, olive oil, half a yellow onion, peeled and quartered, a handful of celery, 2 carrots, a handful of parsley. Lastly, for the turkey, I think we should prepare a few sprigs of fresh rosemary and thyme. Great. And of course, once we get those final numbers back on the amount of people that shall be attending, I will adjust the recipes accordingly for that. Great. So, another meat that I decided I think would be best for the day is a piece of roast pork with garlic and thyme. If you like the idea, great. Now for that will serve approximately 12 people. I figured that this would be enough, as I know that most people will traditionally be going for the turkey or the nut roast. So I figured that this would be a nice accompaniment to the turkey itself. So for that, we're going to need, I think, a 3-kilogram pork leg. Yeah, I thought so. And for the preparation of the pork, do you think we shall be needing 2 cloves or 3 cloves of garlic? 3, I thought so too. We will also need a teaspoon of salt. And with that, I think we'll also need about half a tablespoon of freshly ground black pepper. And I think we'll need a few bay leaves, about 3. I think so too. And I think with that also we will need about 100 milliliters of cider vinegar. I find that to be the best accompaniment for pork. It really adds something to it, doesn't it? And to finish that off, I think we will also need a teaspoon of dry thyme. I tried that last year and I found it to be very effective. Such a subtle amount, but it really adds something to it. Okay, so that is the meat discussed. Now let's have a look at the nut roast for our vegetarian guests. So for the nut roast, I think we need 1 red pepper, and we shall halve and de-seed and finely dice that, as there will be a lot of different ingredients being mixed up in this. Okay. I think we'll also need 1 large carrot grated, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika. Now I wanted to add red lentils to the mix as I find it to be a wonderful filler. So how many grams of red lentils do you think we should use? Okay. And we shall need 2 tablespoons of tomato puree, 300 milliliters of vegetable stock, 100 grams of fresh breadcrumbs, and I think 150 grams of mixed nuts. Now for those, I thought it would be nice to use walnuts, pecans, of course, hazelnuts, Brazil nuts, I agree. Okay. We shall also need 3 large eggs, 100 grams of mature cheddar cheese, and let's have that grated in there. I was thinking a handful of parsley, finely chopped. We shall also need a tablespoon of olive oil, 15 grams of butter, 1 large onion finely chopped, 2 sticks of celery, let's finely chop that one too, 2 garlic cloves, also finely chopped, and 200 grams of mushrooms. I was thinking chestnut mushrooms. Great. And I think we should prepare those also finely chopped. Great. Okay. So I also wanted to prepare a sauce to go with the nut roast. I was thinking a tomato-based sauce, and for that I think we'll need 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 2 garlic cloves, okay, and let's have those finely sliced, I think. And I think for the sauce we'll also need 1 sprig of rosemary, and 400 milliliters of passata. What do you think? Okay, great. Great. So that takes care of all of the main courses. Now I thought it would be best to discuss the starter. Now for the starter, I was thinking we could create a nice, light and refreshing salad. What do you think? So for the salad, I was thinking it would be nice to create a roasted apple salad with a maple cider vinaigrette. Great. So for that, we shall need 4 Fuji or Gala apples, and I think we should prepare those quartered. And we shall need 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now for the vinaigrette that shall be paired with it, I think we shall create that by using 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, half a teaspoon of salt, and a quarter teaspoon of pepper. So for the salad mixture itself, I was thinking we should use about 500 grams of mixed salad greens. Now, what do you think we should use for the salad greens? Okay, I think that's a great choice. Do you think cress would go with it well too? Okay. Okay. And some butterhead and romaine lettuce. Okay. I was undecided on that. Okay. And I think we'll need some pitted dates. And some fresh goat cheese. So as it is a little bit more of a sweeter salad, I thought it would be best to go for pecans as the choice of nuts. Okay. And for that we shall need about 100 grams or so of them, chopped and toasted. So now I would like to move on to discussing the sides that shall be paired with the main courses. These are perhaps my favourite to create. So the Claus family have recently mentioned that they enjoy Yorkshire puddings, so I thought it would be nice to pair those on the side. Okay. For those we shall need 140 grams of plain flour, 4 eggs, about 200 milliliters of milk, and just a little bit of sunflower oil to help them cook. Okay. Now this is a rather small recipe, so we'll build up the recipe from there for the additional guests that shall be arriving. But this recipe is good for 8 large Yorkshire puddings or 24 small ones. Okay. Alright, so let's move on to the next side suggestion. I wanted to suggest some herb-infused roast potatoes. I find this recipe to be very flavourful, and the roast potatoes themselves are very crispy and tasty whilst being soft on the inside. Okay, so for the potatoes, this is a recipe that only serves 8, so we'll work up from there with the additional guests. But for this recipe, we shall need 2.5 kilograms of Mince Pies potatoes, peeled and halved, a large handful of mixed woody herbs such as bay, thyme, rosemary, with a few parsley stalks. Okay. We shall also need 100 milliliters of sunflower oil. Okay. So is there anything with this recipe that you would like to change or add to? Okay. So for the next side, I would like to suggest a 3-in-1 brown buttered winter vegetable mix. So my 3 suggestions for the winter vegetables are carrots, Brussels sprouts, and leeks. Do you think we should make any changes to those? Okay. So for that then, we shall need 3 carrots. This is a rather small recipe, so we'll work up from here. Thickly sliced. 300 grams of Brussels sprouts. Trimmed and halved. And 2 leeks. Trimmed and thickly sliced. For this we shall also need 75 grams of butter for the cooking preparation. So the last side that I wanted to suggest today is the stuffing. Now the stuffing I wanted to create with chestnuts, bacon and cranberries. You like that? Good. It tends to mix together a lot of favoured ingredients, so I thought that a lot of the guests might enjoy it. Okay, so we're going to need a few different ingredients for this one. We will need 50 milliliters of ruby port, 1 small onion chopped, 2 rashers of unsmoked back bacon, cut into strips, with 50 grams of butter, and alongside that we will need 2 garlic cloves, chopped, about 450 grams of sausage meat, we shall also need 140 grams of white or brown breadcrumbs. What do you think on that one? Okay. We will also need 2 tablespoons of fresh parsley and a half teaspoon of chopped fresh thyme leaves, as well as 140 grams of peeled chestnuts. And we should prepare those, I think, roughly chopped. Okay. And lastly for this recipe, I think we shall need 1 medium egg. Okay. So, do you have any other sides that you think we should prepare? No? Okay. So I'm just going to make some final notes on the alterations that we've made for the side recipes. Okay. So lastly, I thought it would be best to discuss the desserts. They're some of my favorite too. So it has been personally suggested from the Claus family that this year we create a gingerbread loaf. So for the gingerbread loaf we shall need 170 grams of white sugar, and we shall need 170 grams of butter, 1 egg, about 250 milliliters of golden syrup or molasses, 300 grams of all-purpose flour, we shall also need 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. We shall also need 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, half teaspoon of ground cloves, a half teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of hot water. Okay. So as we have now taken care of the gingerbread loaf, let us now move on to the traditional treat in the Claus family of Christmas cookies. Those are one of my favourites to make too. So the recipe that I have currently prepares 48 servings, but we can of course make more for any additional guests. Great. So for the Christmas cookies, we shall need 450 grams of all-purpose flour, about 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a half teaspoon of salt, about 230 grams of softened margarine, about 300 grams of white sugar, 2 eggs, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Okay. So, do you think we need to make any alterations to the recipe? Okay. So the next recipe that I wanted to prepare are mince pies. What do you think about this idea? Great. So I wanted to just create the base recipe of 16 mince pies for this one, just because it would make a nice little additional choice for desserts for those that would like to try something a little bit different. Okay. So for this recipe, we shall need about 600 grams of mincemeat, 2 satsumas, 1 apple finely chopped, the zest of 1 lemon, and for the pastry we shall need approximately 375 grams of plain flour, 260 grams of unsalted butter, softened, 125 grams of caster sugar for sprinkling. We shall also need 1 large egg and 1 beaten egg for glazing. Does everything sound good with that recipe? Great. So the last dessert that I wanted to discuss with you today is the centerpiece for the desserts, and that is the Christmas cake. Now we shall need to prepare this just a day or so in advance to allow all of the ingredients to brew properly. Okay. So feel free to let me know your suggestions on the cake itself, as there are a lot of different ingredients that I have noted here. So feel free to let me know on any changes you would like to make. Okay. So this recipe shall serve approximately 10 to 12 people, but I think that we may need to create either another Christmas cake or a larger one. A larger one? Okay. So for the base recipe, I would like to suggest about 175 grams of raisins. Okay. And I was thinking about 350 grams of glacé cherries. Okay. And for the preparation of those, they shall need to be halved, rinsed, and thoroughly dried. Okay. Additionally, the Christmas cake requires about 500 grams of currants, 350 grams of sultanas, about 150 milliliters of brandy or sherry, and we shall need a little extra for feeding. Okay. We shall also need the zest of 2 oranges, and we also need about 250 grams of softened butter. We also need 250 grams of light muscovado sugar and 4 eggs. Additionally, the recipe requires about a tablespoon of black treacle and 75 grams of almonds, 250 grams of plain flour, 1½ teaspoons of mixed spice, okay. For the covering of the cake, it needs about 3 tablespoons of apricot jam. And for the preparation of that, I was thinking warmed and sieved, and icing sugar, 675 grams of marzipan. Now for the royal icing covering, it shall require 3 egg whites, 675 grams of sifted icing sugar, 3 teaspoons of lemon juice, and 1½ teaspoons of glycerin. Okay. Do you think we should make any alterations to the recipe? Okay. Okay. I think that's a really good idea. Okay. And that. So that is all of the ideas that I have for the Claus family dinner. Are you happy with these suggestions? Great. So I think that covers everything for the dinner for the day. Thank you so much for meeting with me today to discuss all of the recipes and meals. All of your alterations and ideas have been noted and will help make a wonderful dinner for the Claus family. So do you think that there is anything else that needs to be discussed regarding the meal? No? Okay. Well then I shall get to work on this right away. Alright. Take care.